The plot of Hamlet.
The main character in the play is, of course, Prince Hamlet himself. In fact, the full title is The Tragedy of Hamlet, Prince of Denmark. He's the son of old King Hamlet, who died very recently. Hamlet's uncle is Claudius, his father's brother, and the man who became king when the old King Hamlet died. But as well as becoming king, Claudius quickly married King Hamlet's widow, Gertrude, Hamlet's mother. Denmark is facing crisis. The neighbouring country of Sweden is about to send its army to invade. The play starts on a cold winter night in the King of Denmark's castle. Guards outside see a ghostly figure and decide to tell Prince Hamlet that his father's ghost is around. Hamlet is feeling very depressed about his father's death, and so both his uncle, King Claudius, and his mother, Gertrude, try to cheer him up. Hamlet still feels sad, and he talks to the audience about the cause of his depression. The fact that his mother has married his uncle. For Hamlet, it has all happened too quickly. Claudius and Gertrude send two friends to see Hamlet so that they can discover the reason why he is so sad. Hamlet greets his friends warmly, but soon understands that they are working for Claudius and his mother, and are, in fact, spies. That night, the ghost of the dead king appears to Hamlet and tells him that Claudius murdered him by pouring poison into his ear while he was sleeping. The ghost demands that Hamlet avenge him. Hamlet isn't sure if the ghost is telling the truth, so he decides to pretend to be mad to find out what really happened. Polonius is Claudius's trusted chief counselor. He has a son, Laertes, who is about to go back to his studies in France. He also has a daughter called Ophelia, who is planning to marry Hamlet. Polonius and Laertes don't like the idea of her marrying Hamlet and advise her against it. Ophelia meets Hamlet secretly, and she is frightened by his madness, which the audience know is fake. She loves Hamlet desperately, but he sends her away. Hamlet still doesn't believe the ghost. When a group of actors arrive, he decides he will stage a play in which they will reenact his father's murder. Hamlet will be able to tell if Claudius is guilty by his reaction to the play. The royal family and the entire court watch the play, and when Claudius sees the king being murdered with poison in the ear, he runs out of the room angrily. For Hamlet, this proves that he is guilty of his father's murder. Hamlet decides to kill the king and sneaks into his bedroom. However, he finds Claudius in prayer and so does not kill him. Hamlet is furious with his mother, and they have a row in her bedroom. Hamlet hears a noise behind a curtain, and, believing it to be Claudius, he stabs the figure behind it. But he has made a terrible mistake, and has killed the king's adviser, Polonius, by accident. Now, the ghost of Hamlet's father suddenly appears, and is angry with Hamlet for not killing Claudius. Gertrude, who can't see or hear the ghost, thinks that Hamlet must be mad. Claudius is now worried that Hamlet will kill him, so he sends Hamlet to England with two of his friends. He also sends a note to the King of England ordering Hamlet's immediate execution. Ophelia, Polonius's daughter, takes the news of her father's death very hard, and it drives her mad. Her brother, Laertes, arrives back from France, enraged by his father's death and his sister's madness. Claudius convinces Laertes that Hamlet is the cause of all this. Claudius and Laertes decide that they will kill Hamlet. Laertes will ask Hamlet for a duel where they will fight to the death. To make sure that Laertes wins and that Hamlet dies, he will use a sword that is covered with poison. Claudius will also offer Hamlet a drink of poisoned wine. They now find out that Laertes' sister, Ophelia, has committed suicide by drowning herself. While they are digging her grave, two gravediggers talk about Ophelia's suicide. Hamlet arrives with his friend, and they talk to the gravediggers. Here, Hamlet finds a skull, which he finds out is from a court jester from the time when he was a child. Hamlet holds up his skull, and this is the scene where he makes his famous "Alas, poor Yorick" speech. Back at the castle, Hamlet receives an invitation to fight a duel with Laertes, and later, with the Norwegian army close to invasion, the two begin to fight. Laertes cuts Hamlet with a poisoned blade, but in the fight they somehow change swords, and Hamlet stabs Laertes with his own poisoned sword. Sadly, and even though she was warned by Claudius, Gertrude accidentally drinks the poisoned wine meant for Hamlet, and she dies. Laertes tells Hamlet about the plot to murder him in the fight with poisoned swords. And then Laertes himself dies. So a bitterly angry Hamlet attacks and kills Claudius with the poisoned sword, as he blames Claudius for his mother's death. Wounded in the fight, Hamlet dies soon afterwards. When the Norwegian army arrives, the royal family of Denmark lies dead. The Prince of Norway is moved by the story of what happened, and takes the crown of Denmark for himself. The tragedy of Hamlet is complete.